Hi, let's look at how to make the eye for the fish on the Something Fishy blanket. Okay, so we have a crochet hook and the yarn, and so we're going to start by winding the yarn twice around the left index finger so that we have a loop. Sorry for the dog barking and the cat meowing, if you can hear that too. Okay, so then I'm going to tension with my left hand just like I would normally for crochet. And then I'm going to hold the loop that I just made in between my third and thumb. Insert the needle front to back and pull a loop through. Catch the yarn again and pull it through the loop that I made. That's not a stitch yet, that's just kind of our starting setup. And then, so now I'm going to do 8 single crochets through the loop. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I'm going to pull a loop through the first chain here in order to secure and finish the circle. Okay, at this point I've got it all the way pulled through, and then I'm going to cut this yarn leaving about maybe 6 or 7 inches and then pull the yarn all the way through. Okay, so now I've got this completed little, looks almost like a flower, but it's kind of like a circle. So now going to the back, I want to tighten this up to close this hole as much as possible. I wasn't completely consistent on my version of the blanket because some of these just really didn't want to tighten up. This one tightened up really nice. You can see it's quite a bit smaller now. Okay, so now turning to the back, this is a Susan Bates finishing needle. This is the yarn that came from that original loop. And so I want to secure this so that my center doesn't come undone. So I'm going to use, your standard loop knot there. Pull it nice and tight. Okay, so now I'm just inserting the needle through and kind of burying it or weaving it into the back of my little flowerette eye. Just going around, sticking it through the same little edge stitch to hide it, and so that it doesn't end up showing later. And these finishing needles are great because you can work with, well, that wasn't a great example there, but you can work with a very small thread because you can move the thread from one end of the needle to the other. Okay, now that's done, so I'm just going to kind of bury it in the middle there. Okay, so now I have my eye completed. So there it is. And I'm going to go to my fish. I'm actually on strip 20 of this blanket, so I'm getting very close to being done. So I figured it was time for me to make this video before I actually finish the blanket. Thread the needle. And I haven't been very exact about where I've been positioning the eye. I kind of do it maybe including the ridge where we attached the fin. I'm putting it like 2.5 or 3 over, and then a little bit below where the fin starts. Okay, so I'm using this long tail that I left, and I'm just gonna sew around, and I'm coming up and down on consecutive chains here. So I'm coming up into the center of the next chain, and then down into the center of the next chain, and then up into the center of this chain. And I'm just going to go once around to secure the eye. Okay. All right, so we're back to the beginning. And so that's what it looks like. It looks pretty neat. So I'm going to turn it over. So you can see my stitches there. I've got 4 stitches where I went around. So I am going to tie off in the loop way. So make a loop, insert the needle through the second loop, and then basically the last loop that you make, you insert your needle through. And then you pull gently and slowly, and then you can adjust it a little with your fingers. So I still have this yarn left. So what I've been doing is I've been just inserting it through the back to another place where the yarn is emerging, and just kind of going back and forth just to bury it behind the eye. Makes the eye pop up a little more, which I think is a nice kind of characteristic or texture for the blanket. So just keep going back and forth to different places where the yarn is emerging out of the back. So I'm not super delighted with the way this one looks on the back because I do have some of these sewing stitches shown, but I just try to, do them neatly and consistently so it looks the same everywhere. Oops. And hopefully I will be so impressed with the way the front looks that I won't ever pay any attention to the back. So this yarn is Malabrigo Rios, which is a superwash worsted that's plied. It comes in great Malabrigo colors that they're so famous for. And it's really soft, wonderful yarn. Okay, so that's good. And then I can just trim off this last little end carefully. There. Okay, so now I have added an eye to my fish. I've been doing the sewing on of the eyes after I have sewn the strip of fish onto the blanket, because I found that if I did it when the strip wasn't attached, I was often sewing the eye on to the wrong side of the fish. Like I did a whole strip where I sewed the eye on like down here when the strip was actually, oriented like this in the blanket, and the eye should have been up here. So whereas when I do the fins, I do that before I attach the strip to the blanket. I think that's easiest. Okay, so I hope that helps, and happy knitting.